Hello, and welcome to the first episode of History is Weird podcast, where books, movies, and games are weird, but history is really weird. I'm here today with my co host, Lexi Lou.
Hello.
There she is. Ashley, look, Lexi. Ashley's here. Hi, Ashley.
I love the emotes. You're so talented. Oh my god.
I'm glad you could make it. I'm so excited. Chill Chai Studio is the wonderful artist who makes my emotes, and I love her so much, guys. If you need emotes done, go to Etsy and go and hit up her shop. She has amazingly cute stuff. Trust me. Yes, it's right there. The link right there. And I'm so happy that you made it. Anyway, we're be talking Greek mythology today. Right, Lexi? Your favorite subject.
Yes, it is.
Is that all I'm going to get out of you? You were so
No,
lackluster.
I'm very, very hyped. I'm very, very hyped. I'm just, if you can I wait? I can talk louder. Do you want me to whisper at your ear, Jack? You want me to whisper sweet nothings? I can also talk in Portuguese if you want. Though I do have an accent.
You have a lovely accent. I don't want to hear anything about it.
I don't think you've ever heard me talk in Portuguese. How do you know the accent I have in
Yes,
Portuguese?
I have.
Because I have an accent in
Hey!
Portuguese.
We were in voice chat, and you're yelling at your relatives, and you're talking to them. It's like, oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
I was stuck. No, I think that was my cat. I think
Was it your cat?
Probably.
All right. Anyway,
That or I was complaining to my mom. One of those.
so everyone,
cat.
right? Everyone has some time or another has run across something with Greek mythology in it, or they've watched movies or read books. Like a lot of people can recognize some of the more famous Greek gods or characters, like Hercules, Zeus, Perseus, if you're into Clash of the Titans, that kind of stuff. But how much of that is fact and how much of that is just somebody going, let's spin that a little bit further. But today, Lexi is going to put on her teacher's hat and tell us a little bit about some facts. Y'all ready? Get yourself cozy back in that bean bag because the teacher, Professor Lexi Lou, is about to step on the podium. Right? Quiet in the back.
What?
I hear you. I hear you back there,
making
BB.
me
You're the one
nervous.
making noise. But yes.
As someone who ate in class and did played games, yeah, I don't blame you. Just eat all you want, do the noise. I don't mind. This is why I would never be good as a teacher. I would constantly be like, yeah, you want to chill back there? Just do it. I don't care.
Anyway,
To be the teacher I always wanted.
yeah, that is the ultimate teacher who'll let you do stuff in
Right.
class. But all right, the floor is yours, Miss Lexi Lou. Give us some background.
So, first and foremost, I think I should say that most Greek myths are myths. So they're not necessarily historical events like the Iliad and the Trojan War and all those details. They didn't actually happen like you and me exist. They're not facts, at least not to our current understanding. We have been able to find Troy. We know Troy as a city existed, and it's likely that the Trojan War was inspired by some historical account. However, we do not have any information regarding that, and for now, we still consider it to be a myth. So, the Trojan War, all the myths I'm going to talk to you about today, they're all myths. However, Jack, don't make me laugh. Because he's right, we do have a Troy in Portugal, and it's like rich country. It's for all the rich dudes.
All the rich dudes.
I swear. But like they're all myths. They're not actual historical events. However, they have shaped a lot of ancient society, and even nowadays, a lot of our stories, a lot of our media, a lot of our history itself is shaped by very classical influences, and that includes the myths. So, most myths can be accounted to several sources. The most famous sources, which will be the most that we will end up talking today, are Homer, who's I mean, he's not technically the author because the existence of Omar as just one dude is very contested. But just for the sake of it, we're gonna just say just one dude, but probably it's not just an ungodly amount of dudes who all wrote similarly the same. But Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are two of the most famous books, which tell the
Yeah,
stories of
computer, go ahead. Make
Odysseus
some
and the
noises while
Trojan War.
she's talking. That's nice. I'm sorry, the
I,
computer was making big ass noises over here. I apologize if you heard
your
that, chat. Jesus.
your computer was cheering me on. Um,
I'm sorry, continue. I'm not a
so
troublemaker. Shh, shh. It's fine.
actually, Homer wrote the Odyssey and the Iliad. The Odyssey counts the tale of Odysseus, and the Iliad
Yeah.
counts
Hold on one second,
recounts
Lexi.
the Trojan War.
Says you're too low. Hang
Oh,
on. Is
is
that
it
better,
better?
Jack? Go ahead.
Is that better? Can you hear me better? Can you hear my lovely voice? Not lovely, actually, but yeah. Can you hear me better now? Woohoo! I'm gonna need your feedback, otherwise I'm gonna be saying woohoo for a long time, and no one wants that. Super weird.
This is now the Owl podcast. Woohoo!
Woo!
See, he left us hanging now.
No? You know how they say in Portuguese, quem cala consente. So let's go. That means whoever
That's better. Thank you,
silent
Ashley.
consents. Thank you. So, Homer, yeah, he wrote those two, and then you also have how the fuck do I say your name in English? Wait, brain, come on. Isiad? 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 I'm sorry. Half the names I know how to pronounce in Portuguese, so we're gonna be butchering some names here.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote one of the most famous poems, which is the Theogony, which essentially explains how the world was created and how the gods came to be. Um, and we're going to talk about it a bit too. And then we also have Apollodorus, in this case pseudo Apollodorus, which is an author that also wrote a lot of the myths. And then we have fucking Ovid. You will soon find out that I do not enjoy Ovid, so you will not hear me compliment Ovid. I am sorry to all the Roman geeks. I do not like Ovid. You can keep him. I do not want him. Okay? He's a Roman author who had a very, very inclination for rape and sexual assault, and
Oh.
god damn, he's terrible. I hate him. So yeah, fuck Ovid. What I was saying. Okay, so the Theogony, starting with that. True, true. Oh
Very
god,
true.
the amount of times and I've had ancient Greek classes, and I still mispronounce them. It's terrible. So the Theogony, rapey days. Oh god, so much fun. The Theogony is an ancient Greek poem. It was written by Hesiod. I'm sorry, I'm butchering names. Essentially, it tells the beginning of the world. It began with chaos. From there, everything emerged. And then we have Gaia, Tartarus, Eros, and then Gaia gave birth to the sky, who became her lover, and then they produced the Titans. The Titans are the first set of deities, which you have Cronus, which everyone knows about, the swallowing of the children ordeal, and Rhea, which also ends up being Earth. And then from these two come the gods that everyone know, which is the Olympian gods. The Olympian gods are the last set of gods, and they're born from Cronus and from Rhea. And essentially, Cronus is given a prophecy that one of his sons is going to overthrow him, like he overthrew his father, because Cronus chopped off his dad's thingy.
Peen. You can say peen. It's good.
Okay, so he chopped off his dad's peen and launched it into the sea. And from when the peen reached the sea, all his sperm turned into sea foam, and from there was born Aphrodite. So, and he chopped off his dad everywhere. And Cronus was given a prophecy that one of his sons would do the same thing to him. So what does Cronus do? He eats all his children, like. Because Rhea gives birth and he's like, yum, tasty, great. It's like food, and keeps eating them. Now, gods cannot die, so they're just, chilling in dad's belly until Rhea gives birth to Zeus, and she switches Zeus for a rock and gives the rock to Cronus to eat. And Cronus eats the rock, and he's like, "Chill, all my kids are inside my belly. They cannot do anything." However, no, they're not. Zeus is being raised in a cave. So Zeus grows up, and he's like, "I'm gonna overthrow my dad," and he goes and he overthrows his dad. And so the Olympian gods came into. There's a bunch of war between that because you got the Titomaki Titanmanki era. It's a big war between the Olympian gods and the Titans. The Olympians win, obviously, and there comes the Olympian gods. Now, the Olympian gods, they're usually 12. However, and this is something most people don't know, they're not always the same 12. The Olympian 12s will change from polis to polis. So, what is a polis? Just to give a very quick context. Ancient Greece is not like ancient Rome. So, while ancient Rome is an empire and everything is under the power of Rome, ancient Greece is a set of independent cities. So, for example, Athens and Corinth are two different cities, and while they may trade between one another and they might have some contact between another, they're like different independent cities. They're not related, and they might connect for wars, like we have the Delian League, for example, which is a bunch of cities that get together for conflict and stuff like that. But overall, they're independent, and each city has a set of gods they worship, and they're not always the same. The 12 gods that we always, traditionally know are the ones from Athens, because Athens is the one city that we know the most of, because it's the one that we have more sources and more information. And the 12 traditional Olympian gods are Zeus, the king of gods, and he's associated with thunder and lightning in the heavens. We have Hera, which is his wife. She's the queen of the gods, and she's the goddess of marriage and family. Then you have Zeus's brother. Also, they're almost all of them brothers. Okay, incest is incest in ancient Greek mythology. So just keep that in mind. Everyone is either a brother or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle, and we just chilling. Okay. Also, does pedophilia really happen when you're an immortal? Who knows? Don't
Didn't I
don't
say
look
it
too
was
much
weird?
into
Didn't
it.
I say it was weird?
Don't
People
look
eating
too much
rocks and
into it.
penises making foam in the sea. I'm telling you, some weird
Yeah,
stuff.
and if you squint, you're not even sure who's who.
Right?
Especially especially because um all the genealogy of the ancient Greek gods will change from source to source. There's like some gods have like three different set of parents depending on who you listen to. So yeah, don't look too much into the familiar relationships between them. But yeah, Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, which is the god of the sea, everyone knows about. He's also associated with earthquakes. You have Demeter, which is the goddess of agriculture and harvest, and she's the mother of Persephone, which we will talk about. You got Athena, which is the patron goddess of Athens, hence why um, Athens has its name. It's a whole story of how Athens was being disputed between Poseidon and Athena won. So Athens became Athens, from the name of Athena. You got Apollo, which is the god of music and prophecy and healing, and also the sun. You have Artemis, which is Apollo's twin sister. There's no doubt about this one. And she's the goddess of the hunt and the wilderness. You got Ares, the god of war. You got Aphrodite, which is the goddess of love, beauty, and desire. And this one was born from the sea foam, like I said. You have Hephaestus, which technically is the husband of Aphrodite, but then Aphrodite goes with Ares, and they go, and it's a whole story.
Mm.
Basically, Hephaestus is the god of blacksmiths and craftsmen, and he crafts a special net that falls on top of Ares and Aphrodite while they're in bed, and then calls all the other gods so everyone can laugh at them while they're in bed.
Oh, yay!
Really nice.
Pranksters!
Given the fact that Hephaestus was born with a disability and his mother cast him from a window and he just went plopping down from Mount Olympus until he reached Earth. It's fun. Then you got Hermes, who's the messenger of the gods. He's also the god of commerce, harvest, and thieves. And then the 12th place is disputed between two deities. It can be one or the other. Usually, the most known is Dionysus, who's the god of wine and ecstasy.
He's my
But
favorite.
some Wait until I tell you how he was worshipped in ancient Greece, and you will be very surprised. Um, the other could be Hestia, which is the goddess of the harp, which, contrary to most people's knowledge, she was a very important deity because whenever an offering was made, and especially within the house, within the oikos, which was the name for the houses, the first offering was always to her because she was the tender of the harp. So she was a very important deity for daily religious life in Greece. These are the most famous 12 Olympian gods, and a lot of the adventures and myths end up having one or the other. Uh, since you mentioned Dionysus, we might start with him. Uh, one of the ways Dionysus was worshipped, which was what I was going to tell you, he had a thing that, besides being a deity associated with, wine and revelry and all of those things,
But
he
debauchery.
also, yeah, there was a specific kind of cult which was
Cult.
actually banned. Yeah, cult in the way of worship, a special type of worship, not cult. When we talk about cults, in historical terms, we're not talking about cults like the modern cults, like Scientology and stuff like that. We're talking about the idea of worshiping a deity. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's not like a cult as in a weird group. It's more of a
People who wear goats on their
no,
head and
it's
smear blood everywhere. No, we're not talking about that kind of cult.
yeah, not the type of weird modern cult, the ancient cult. In this
Gotcha.
case, I'm gonna try and keep with the word worship. One of the worships of Dionysus, it was not the snakes. I think the one that you're mentioning is that the snakes could heal. That would be Asclepius, which is the god of medicine. Um, Dionysus had a specific type of worship that was actually banned in most Greek cities. It had to be done outside of the city borders because it was considered to be indecent, which was orgies. Just a lot of sex,
Orgies,
a
yes.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
weird sex with a lot of people, and sometimes you might just be like, I just fucked like 5 different people. Let me go and kill some of them, and you just kill them with your hands, and you just butcher their bodies, and you just get so crazy you rip skin out of bones, and
Aren't you glad
there
you
is
were
a
in this
lot of it.
podcast?
There's a
Okay.
lot of that.
What the heck?
So yeah, Dionysus was a deity that the only type of worship that was allowed within city limits was the one um, associated with his role as a deity connected to theater and to the arts. That one was allowed, and also wine with moderation. However, all of this debauchery was not allowed within city limits because no one wants an orgy with um, dismemberments inside a
Everybody
town.
got
Even then,
attack of the
people had
a
scandals.
praying mantis. I'm gonna bite your head off after I. Never mind.
Ex-
No, 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 no,
exactly.
no, no,
Also,
no.
also animals. Also animals. There's what's it called? I keep. It's. I know. Wow. Kudos to me. I wrote it right the first time. Kudos to me. That's like probably the first time this happens. The Maenads, which were the female followers of Dionysus, and these are the most famous ones and that everyone knows. And even in Renaissance paintings and more modern paintings, they're always characterized as a bunch of naked women running through the woods and killing people.
Hmm.
Yeah, they had dancing and
You know
intoxication,
that would make a
and
great
they were a
TV
bit.
show.
Yeah, it's actually this type of worship is one of the reasons why Dionysus is also associated with madness and with turning people insane, because people said that whenever you're very connected to the god, you might have some type of. It's a fine line to walk between madness and equilibrium. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of frenzy when it comes to his worship. In fact, even when he's moved, when he's associated with the Roman gods, which, by the way, they're not the same gods. Roman gods and Greek gods, while similar, they're not the same. Okay, and if anyone tells you that, tell them to open a book that wasn't written in the fucking second half and first half of the 19th and 20th century, at least. But essentially, when he was adapted and incorporated into Roman mythology, named as Bacchus, that's where you have the Bacchanalia, which was that whole worship around them, dancing and loud music and wine and all of that. It comes from the worship of the Roman version of Dionysus, which, like I said, essentially is not Dionysus itself. It's a god that is a god who. How do I explain this without having to explain how syncretism works? But yeah, let's just say it's inspired by, because I'm not going to give you a religious uh, talk on how gods are changed. So let's move on to the dolphins. And you're like, Alexia, you were just talking about wine. Why are you talking about dolphins? Because Dionysus did something with dolphins.
Yeah, he's a freaky dude.
Essentially, not that kind of thing. Oh, poor
I'm
dolphin.
just messing with
Not
you.
that kind of thing. Poor dolphins. But essentially, when he was young, he found himself shipwrecked and stranded on an island. And he got captured by pirates. And the pirates were like, aha, you know, dude, we can sell a slave and make money out of. And he did not know that he was, in fact, a god. So they did try to capture and take him away. And he transformed the ship oars into serpents. Then all the pirates jumped overboard. And basically, let me just drink a bit of water. Give me a second, because my throat's killing me.
Damn, you have been ranting on nonstop for the last like 20 minutes. 27
and I just
minutes.
had to drink water. Sorry. Because my throat is better from my cold, but sometimes if I talk too much, it still goes.
You don't need to explain. Say, I need water. My throat be dry.
Yeah,
I just sucked up a beach.
Essentially, they all jumped overboard, and essentially he kind of cleaned the sea because
Not
he
rant
got rid
lecturing.
of a bunch of. he basically transformed and he filled the vessel, and he tried to uh, terrify the pirates, and it worked because they jumped overboard. And as a reward, for all of that, the sea nymphs and dolphins came to help him, and they got carried him to shore. And if I'm not mistaken, he also turned into an actual dolphin. Let me check, because I know a lot, but turned into a dolphin. My mind does not. Oh yeah. As they jumped overboard, the pirates were transformed into
Arr.
dolphins. I knew someone transformed into dolphins. I was just very confused as who actually turned into dolphins. But yeah, essentially, they turned into dolphins. So dolphins are one of the symbols associated with Dionysus because of that.
Hmm.
So after that, moving on to a different myth, we can go to my favorite myth of all, which is the myth of Persephone. So, the myth of Persephone, there's a lot of origins, but the main origin from which we can get it, it's the Homeric hymns. The Homeric hymns are hymns which are attributed to the, person of Homer, because they were grammatically and, poemy written in the same type of structure.
Poemy.
And poemy, that's the best I can do.
Poemy.
Uh,
I'm gonna use that from now
poemy.
on. It was poemy, like with two peoply outside. It's poemy. I love it. But yeah, this one's really good too. It's very, very.
You do know that there was I saw a TikTok that the millennial generation tends to add e's to the end of like poemy, cutesy, like all the e's because of Buffy.
Really?
Because Buffy the show, she would always add e's like, oh, go do the thingy and stuff like that. And it basically catched on the millennials, and a lot of millennials do that. And when I saw it, I was like, damn, they're right. Because I do that. I add thingy and e to everything. So yeah, it's poemy. So, blame Buffy for that. Well, technically,
Buffy, it's
blame
your
Joss
fault.
Whedon. Also,
If you're
fuck
listening.
Joss Whedon. So yeah. What was I going to explain? Oh, American. Okay, so The myth of Persephone comes from the Homeric hymn to Demeter, which is one of the longest hymns that we have. And essentially, this hymn explains the turning of the seasons. So the following before basically what the myth explains is that before this happens there weren't any seasons, they were just like a perpetual summer, but then this happened and explains why the seasons came to be. So a lot of myths are actually just um they're not only representations of what the deities did and also to explain about certain deities, but they're also um explanations for things that were present in ancient Greek life, like we nowadays explain some stuff. They also explain stuff through myths. And the myth of Persephone explains the coming of the seasons. Essentially, this story tells the story, or this poem tells the story of Persephone. She's the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of agriculture and harvest, and she's associated as being the daughter of Demeter and Zeus, and she was essentially a beautiful, innocent maiden. And she was playing in a field with all her friends, which were a bunch of nymphs, until suddenly the earth split open, and out of there came Hades, the god of the underworld, in his chariot. He snatched Persephone and dragged her down to the underworld to be
Like he knew how to
executed.
make the entrance.
No, the dark brood, you always know.
Yep.
I'm biased. Essentially, while the poem at the beginning does not tell us, we come to find out that he did this because he asked permission from Persephone's father, from Zeus, to marry Persephone. And one thing that we have to take into consideration, and this again is my personal opinion, is that the fact that when this myth was, dated, and the contest in which it exists in ancient Greek society, um, marriages were basically a deal between two families. So the parents, the fathers in this case of each family, married off their offsprings to make connections and stuff like that. At least in most rich upper class, obviously the lower class were like just marry the fuck you want. But all the deals were done between the fathers. The daughters were technically and legally property that was exchanged from the hands of the father to the hands of the husband. So it is understandable why, in the myth, given the context in which it was written, that the dad, Zeus, gives permission to Hades, which will be the soon to be husband, to take Persephone with him. Another one of the um, oh god, what's the word? Practice. Another practice, or that used to happen when it comes to marriages in ancient Greece, is that there was like this small symbolic ritual in which the man would technically kidnap, the girl, in this case his wife or soon to be wife, from the father's house, which is essentially what Hades is doing here. So it's a bit like that. Um, and he basically takes Persephone down to the underworld. However, he does not tell Demeter, and Demeter is just like, okay, so my daughter is gone. What happened? She's heartbroken. She's furious. She goes and searches for all around the earth, and she tries to find her. She is usually, when it comes to this searching, she's accompanied by Hecate, which is the goddess of the crossroads, and she will at the end also take on a role when it comes to Persephone. And Hecate was one of the only people who heard what happened. She heard Persephone scream when she was being dragged down to the underworld. So she told Demeter that she heard Persephone scream, and that all-seeing Helios, which is the god of the sun, would have seen it since the sun was high in the sky, and he was technically with his chariot going around, because the sun technically is a ball of fire carried on a chariot by Helios. So Helios was going across the sun with his chariot, and he probably seen it since he was in the sky. So they go and talk to Helios, and Helios says, "Yeah, I saw it. The earth went open, Hades came up, grabbed his daughter, took her out. But you should be lucky because he is one of the well, technically Hades is the brother of the meter Zeus, and he's one of the three big gods. So the big three. essentially are Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. They're the oldest brothers, and they're the ones that divided the realms. So when the Olympians won the war, they had to divide the domain of the earth, in this case, the domain of the heavens, the sea, and the underworld. And they, what's it called? The taking the shortest stick, like the stick where you have to take a stick and see who has the shortest one and the longest
Drawing
one, and
straws?
they win. Yeah, that. So they did that, and
Glad I
Zeus
could
ended
help.
up with the heaven. So Zeus ended up with the heavens, Poseidon ended up with the sea, and um, Hades ended up with the underworld. However, one thing that most people don't know is that the underworld is actually one of the biggest realms because everything that exists in the other two ends up in Hades because we all end up dying. So he's a very powerful god. And that's what Helios said to Demeter. You're very lucky. She has a very nice husband. He's one of the greatest kings. He's your brother. You know him, blah, 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 blah. And Demeter is like, fuck no, no, and no. So she turns to Zeus and he's like, you know what? Nothing's growing. Nothing's growing. The crops will wither, and I will not grow a single crop. And humanity starves. So humanity starts starving, and it's like a perpetual winter. She brings on the first um, existence of winter. Nothing grows, everything is dead. People, since they were not prepared, it came as a surprise. No one was ready. Lots of people died. And Zeus comes to the realization that, you know what? If people die, they're not going to give me offerings. So we got to fix it. So he grabs Hermes and he's like, go to the underworld, tell my brother he needs to bring back Persephone to her mother. Hermes goes, because also interesting, most gods cannot go into the underworld, or in this case, choose not to go. There's a very specific set of deities which can go to the underworld and come back. And usually those are Hecate and Hermes. They're two psychopompos. That's the name you give. It's Hecate Psychopompos and Hermes Psychopompos, which are two types of that deity which are allowed to go to and from the underworld. And obviously death, right? And essentially he goes and be like, yo, bring Persephone up again. Her mother is destroying everything. She has to go up. However, Hades was like, I don't want to give up my wife. So I'm going to give her something to eat. Because if you eat something in the underworld, you stay there, which is very similar to the Celtic idea that if you eat something in the fairylands, you have to stay in fairylands. So, same premise. If you eat something in the underworld, you have to stay in the underworld. So he gave her a few pomegranate seeds, which ended up bounding her to the underworld. When she came back up, our mom asked, did you eat anything? And she was like, yeah, I did. I ate pomegranate seeds. And this is the part where it gets iffy depending on which source you're reading from. It can be either 6 seeds for 6 months, or it can be 4 seeds for 4 months. It's going to depend. But for each seed, she has to spend 1 month in the underworld. And that's how the seasons came to be. During spring and summer, Persephone is with her mother, and the meter is happy, so everything is greeny and sunny, and the flowers are blooming, and the animals are happy. And then by the beginning of autumn, she has to come back down to the underworld to be with her husband. And from there on, Demeter is sad and nothing grows, and the world comes into a slumber during winter until she comes back in the spring. And that is how the seasons are explained. This specific myth was also worshipped in the Eleusinian mysteries, which were the biggest. I'm gonna say the biggest, the biggest one mystery religion in ancient Greece. It was celebrated in Eleusis, which is a bit outside of Athens. Um, I'm sorry, I probably touched my mic. I'm sorry. Is it better now? Hopefully. Um, and essentially, it's a bit of outside of Athens, and it was a mystery religion in the sense that we do not know what happened in it. We know it happened. We know it was big. We know that most, if not almost all of them, were a part of that religion, but even to the point of the people who did those initiations and then turned Christians, by the end of the Roman age, because it went on to the Romans. even by the end of that, even the ones that turned Christians, most don't tell, and the ones that do tell ended up kind of defacing what happened. So they're kind of biased because they turned Christians and they want to badmouth um, their religion before and the pagan practices. So they're gonna change the reality to make it look worse than it is. The few knowledge that we have is that basically it was celebrated in 2 points. It was celebrated in the spring as the minor mysteries, the lesser mysteries in this case, and it was basically a purification, right? You know, to purify yourself, to prepare yourself for the greater mysteries, which were then around what we today consider to be September, October, around that time, because the months in Greece were different. And then it was a couple of days, and essentially what we believe happened is that they basically reenacted the myth so that you yourself would kind of, you know, symbolically go down into the underworld and then be reborn. And what the initiation into these myths gave you was that it gave you a happier afterlife, essentially. It gave you more chances in the afterlife to not forget who you were and to be more welcomed when you arrive to Persephone's and Hades' domain. Let me see why you said that. But it's probably that Hades gave the young woman a sense of hope and control. Families, families. Yeah, honestly, one of the things I know this is very controversial nowadays, especially given the fact that a lot of retellings have been made and there has been a very romanticization of the Homeric hymn, and it's been very romanticized, especially the rape part. All of that has been, you know, kind of glossed over. I actually read an article about 2 days ago about the fact that a lot of modern retellings tend to gloss over the ungodly amount of rape and violence that exists in ancient times, which need to be accounted for, especially because they give us a window into what was considered to be normal, you know. But personally, and again, I say this as a Hellenic polytheist, so I actually worship these gods, especially Persephone. Um, the experience I have, and my personal opinion, is that Persephone is not unhappy with Hades. While it may not have been a wish and it may have been um, a choice that was taken from her, she ended up happy, especially when you take into consideration that Hades is one of the few gods who never cheats on his wife. And when he comes close to it, she turns the nymph into a plant and steps on her. And that's how you get the plant mint. So whenever you feel that nice minty smell, that's a nymph who tried to hook up with the god of death, and the queen of the underworld squashed her. So never go after someone's man. That's all we can learn from that little snippet. But yeah, personally, I don't think they're unhappy together. At least, even in my personal UPG, so my personal religious experiences, I do not get that feeling. Though as an historian, I recognize the difference between the myth and the historical, you know, the actual source material we have, the primary source in the Homeric hymn, versus my personal experience. So I can separate those two. But yeah, woo, subs.
Holy shit! What the heck, Malago? Thank you for gifting
Woohoo.
subs, you cute little bean. Way too generous, this
Hi.
old hag. So thank you, and
You're
look, who did
not
you
a
get?
hag. Shut up.
Quiet you. All right, so
No.
we got a gift sub to Demuk, James, Vic, BB, T Pan War, interesting, and Nana DLC. You are so sweet. Thank you so much. Continue, Lexi. I was enjoying your rant.
So yeah, essentially, I honestly believe that, and I also believe that the myth also gives us a bit of a. I believe that all myths do this. Actually, they give us a bit of a window into what was considered normal for those societies and what they consider to be, you know, expected. And this one also represents the, you know, the idea of a woman being kidnapped, and like given from her father to another man. Well, today in our society is shocking, to them it wasn't. And that kind of gives us a nice glimpse into how they saw things and what was considered normal for them. So I also like that. But yeah, this is the myth of Persephone. It's how the seasons came to be, and it's my favorite myth, my all-time favorite myth. Also, what I said about Hecate. Yeah. So in the end, she becomes the companion to Persephone. She basically will be the person who will um, help her come into the underworld and out of the underworld. Hence, the psychopompa, she can come and go, and they end up being very close friends. And she ends up being, her companion or aide. So they're very related to one another. Hence, why she's also important at the beginning of the myth. Even though most retellings and most people, when they talk about the myth, they omit her, which I do not, and I do not accept. Therefore, you will listen to me talk about Hecate. So yeah, moving on to another myth so that I'm not going to bore you with the same myth. So let me look at all of them and choose one of them because I got a lot. So we're going to talk about the the curse of the House of Atreus, which has been written about on a lot of retellings recently, especially because a lot of them will look at you know the Trojan War with a focus. I mean, at least two of them. Three. I think I can remember three books that will mention this situation that are related as a retelling of the Trojan War. Namely, because they talk about Clytemnestra, which is the wife of Agamemnon, which is from the house of Atreus, and she is the sister of Helen. Helen of Troy. The Curse of the House of Hatred is basically a very tragic story. Okay, 1 minute, I gotta hydrate. So everybody hydrate.
Yeah, there's a Discord. If you want to join the Discord, you feel free. We have a lot of forums and a bunch of cool things going on. You can show off your miniatures. You can talk about old ass shit, aka history. If you want to join the Discord, we have a simping room where you can go off and fan girl, boy, whatever, fan person in that room about your favorite person ever. Yeah, feel free to do so. I don't know where
It's
she
the
went.
best Discord around, and I'm not. I'm here. I was
You're
just drinking water.
biased.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
It's not. It's not like I'm a mod or anything.
No, it's not like you're a mod. No.
It's not like I'm a mod and your best friend.
Yeah,
Who me?
yeah, no.
Nah. So, House of Atreus. Essentially, this is like a curse that is on the descendants of King Atreus. It all began with Atreus and his brother. They like had a bitter rivalry for the throne of Mycenae, which in the Trojan War is fought between the Greeks and the Trojans, but the Greeks are actually the Mycenaeans. So just so you can you know keep up with it, and he basically these two, their brothers, they were constantly fighting, and they were they both wanted the throne, and who ended up being on the throne was Atreus, hence the House of Atreus, hence the name. And while he did get the throne, he was still grudging against his brother. He was like, nah, I hate you, dude. So he did what any bitter sibling does. He cut up his brother's children and served it to him on a dinner plate, like one does. Like one does. Like, I don't like my brother. Let me just grab my nieces, cut them into pieces, and serve them for dinner. I mean,
Mmm.
who never
It'll
thought
go
about
great
doing
on
that,
pizza.
right? Like toppings.
Mmm, extra
Um,
toppings. I want it. Is that a toe? Excuse me. That's my toe.
right?
Sorry,
The
I'm
only
good.
time you can have air in your food, and you're like, ah, a delicacy.
Mmm, yum.
So,
Tastes like chicken.
for context, in ancient Greece, killing of any familiar, any relative is very frowned, especially uh, children and parents. And obviously, people are like, "You did what now?" And that began a curse. And the curse is essentially all the descendants will end up fighting each other, killing each other. And uh, Atreus has children, and his children, end up also being shit people. What? Wait. Tiger can I mean, I mean, you're not technically wrong. You're not technically wrong, but still, you know, technically, actually, technically. So for context, what Nana said was it fell on Olympus, so Zeus shoved his cock in it, basically. And technically, Zeus, all the times that Zeus went outside of his marriage and had sex, it was all to produce heroes. If you look at all the children that Zeus had that weren't with Hera, they were all heroes. So they can be justified as um, something he had to do because of the fates. Now, the fates in ancient Greek mythology are three sisters, which, like, contrary to, like, in Christianity, God controls everything, right? God is the ultimate power. In Greek mythology, all of the gods, none of the gods have ultimate power. There's no like infinite power. They're all relatively limited. And there's one thing that no one, not even gods, can escape, which is fate. Fate is uh, destined by the three. They end up being called the Morai in. Oh God, my throat. In when they come to no, they're Morai in. Sorry, I keep forgetting. They're called the Fates in Roman, and they're the Morai in Greek. I keep switching the two. I don't know why. And there are three goddesses of faith, and it's the that story about the weaving. You know, one spins the thread, the other one measures it, and the other cuts it. Even the gods were not, you know, in this case, even the gods were obliged to follow whatever their will was. So if a god, like, one example is Achilles was destined to die in the Trojan War. Even if the gods wanted to stop it, like Achilles' mother is a goddess. Even if she wanted to stop Achilles' death, she couldn't because the fates destined that he was supposed to kill Zion Troy. And even those actions like cheating on your wife and producing an heir which ends up being a hero like a demigod, even those are considered to be destined by fate. So it's not like, you know, it's very, it really depends on what type of thing that comes out of that. I'm not necessarily excusing adultery, obviously, but when it comes to gods and the heroes and all of that, it's kind of complicated. I was wait, where was I? Oh, I was talking about the House of Atreus, right? So the descendants of Atreus then comes like Agamemnon. Agamemnon is the king of the Mycenaean, and he goes to the Trojan War to fight in the war, and he leaves behind his wife Clytemnestra. Clytemnestra is the sister of Alan, so she's pretty pissed. She's like, I was taken from my home, forced to marry a man much older than me because Agamemnon was very old when he married Clytemnestra. Um, and now he leaves me alone to go to the Trojan War. And the Trojan War was supposed to last like 1 or 2 years. And it ends up lasting 10 years. She's left 10 years alone in her home, raising her children, and having to be the queen and having to rule in his absence. And she becomes bitter. And she keeps, remembering that he has this old curse behind him of every brother killing brother, father hurting son, everything. And this curse ultimately plays a central role in the Trojan War because when Agamemnon comes back, his wife kills him because, why not? And basically, she kills him with her lover, and then she thinks that she stopped the curse. He's dead, and this curse will stop, and my children will not be haunted by it. Except her children kill her because she killed her father. So she basically just kept on with the curse. And the curse of the House of Atreus is one of the most famous known because they basically um, serve as a caution that you cannot stop, uh, you know, um, a destructive pattern with more destructive pattern. Like if you have a pattern that every brother kills a brother, you cannot stop that by killing one of the brothers so that the other brother doesn't kill him, because you will just be replicating that destructive pattern in some type else. Like Clytemnestra killed her husband, thinking that she was going to stop and that her children wouldn't be influenced by that curse, but that just ended up making that her children would kill her. So this is one of the famous ones, especially because it shows up in the Trojan War. And yeah, so I don't know if anyone has any doubts up until now. I'm gonna hydrate while y'all reply if you have any doubts or questions or stuff like that.
Vinny, thank you for
Nothing.
coming to the podcast. Lexi is on a tirade, dude. She is like professor of Greekness. This is amazing. I'm learning so much. I'm here to learn. I sound like Guitar Owe from the anime Golden Boy. I'm here to learn with his little special notebook that he studies life. It's so funny. Oh, I'm here for it. That's right, Vinny. That's what we're talking about. We learning today. So yes, guys, we've discovered interesting things today about Dionysus and dolphins and Zeus and Persephone and all kinds of cool stuff. But there is more to come. More craziness. So please relax. We're still here. While Lexi rests her voice for like 2 seconds. You okay there, fam?
I choked on my water. Give me a second.
Breathe. You're not supposed to. You are not a fish. You cannot breathe water.
I
I
have
always
come
wondered
to
if they
that
breathe
sudden
water.
realization.
Do fish actually breathe water? No, they actually circulate it through their
They,
skin. It's fucking
yeah,
weird. But anyway, it's great. We're not getting
they
into that. We're not talking about fish and water. We're talking about Greek mythology today. The amazing shit. All right. It's good.
fish technically get the oxygen from the water, not the water itself.
I know. I was being funny. I
God,
guess I wasn't
I am a.
funny. Okay, I forgot that I'm not funny. I'll just go back over here to doodling little pumpkins on my notebook.
No, this is how you know I'm a fucking nerd.
Nothing wrong with
This
being a
is how you
nerd.
know I'm a nerd. Uh, okay, so next one. I'm looking at the list. So next one, well, we can. I mean, all of them are so fucking tragic. I'm trying to think of one that's not tragic.
Now you made a list. Don't you go off the list. Let's talk about the two scary chicks.
Okay, let's go to those. Okay, so the two scary chicks
Excuse me, not
are.
supernatural female creatures with 12 feet and 6 heads. It's great. It's good. Let's go good. That's one hell of a date. 12 feet tall? Mm-hmm. You better wear your tall boots that day.
Oh God, make that extra tall.
Go ahead, Lexi, and fill us with
And
your
you can, and you
knowledge.
can, and you can badmouth these. I don't mind. They're sea monsters.
But they're hot sea monsters. Anyway, go ahead.
Ma'am, have you seen them?
Yes, I have.
There's a lot of words I used to characterize Xila and Caribides, and hot would not be even a top 100.
All right, go ahead.
They're legendary sea monsters, and they are mentioned in the Odyssey. Essentially, they're associated with this tiny stretch of water in the Strait of Messina, which is between Italy and Sicily. And this is very interesting, especially Jack might find this also interesting because in Portuguese folklore and story, we also have one of these, which is the Cabo das Tormentas, which is the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. There was supposed to be a monster there, which is a Damastor, and the Portuguese sailors during the discoveries had to pass through that monster to get to India by sea, by the African shore. And this is similar. Essentially, it's a very complicated stretch of sea that it's hard to navigate, and so it was justified as having mythical creatures. And this also happens in Portuguese history. Um, Essentially, Scylla and Charybdis are mentioned, like I said, in the Odyssey. One of them, Scylla, was basically a creature with multiple heads and a body of a lot of monstrous parts. She had a bunch of tails and a lot of heads and sharp teeth. And she was in a cave And whenever a ship passed through, she would snatch the ships for the crew and would eat them. You know,
Crunchy.
and since she had a lot of heads and a lot of tails, it was very hard to avoid her because she was on one hand of that straight, right? And on the other hand, so like if you tried to skim a bit to try and avoid her, you would have to avoid what was on the other side, which was Caribidish. Caribidish was basically a massive whirlpool, and she would create some, like, she was a constant whirlpool, but she would sometimes create a bigger one that would drag ships into it. And essentially she had like this giant fucking mouth and she would just eat you. You know those images you find online which is like a whirlpool with teeth in the middle? Yeah, that's gonna be niche. So it's really, if you're between them, you're like, I'm fucked. How am I gonna, pass through this? Because on one hand you have this monster with a god enormous amount of heads and tails and arms and teeth, and on the other side you have a whirlpool with a giant mouth that's going to eat you, and you have to go between these two. So they're very ugly monsters, and we know them because Odysseus in the Odyssey claims to have to be able to pass through them, although losing a lot of people from his ship. Like a lot of them got eaten. So yeah, uh, from what I could tell, I never heard this expression, but online I found that between Xila and Caribidish was like a phrase in English. I have no idea. I never heard of it, but Google says it is, so Google should know
What does Google know?
more than I do. That's for sure.
No
But
bonking
still
me, Vinny.
cannot
I'm
recommend
fine.
me.
I'm over here drinking my Coca Cola. It's fine. I promise I'm not to burp either. I promise. I'm trying to be good here.
Oh God, I'm running out of water. I'm gonna text my mom to come and get me more water. That's
I.
1 liter of water that I've drunk
Oh my
in
god, you're
an
gonna have to
hour.
pee so bad later.
Thank God I'm sitting down because when I'm sitting down, I don't feel like I need to pee and I don't need to start feeling when I get up. That was a
Oh.
bit TMI. I am sorry.
Wow, she's just sharing all kinds of shit today.
So, now we're going to talk about what everyone and their mother knows so that
Hmm?
I can get a bit away from the very obscure myths. We're
Okay.
going to talk about the Minotaur.
Minotaur! Yay!
Ta-da-da!
Minos Boo.
The Minotaur is, the Minotaur has everything. It got kinkiness. It got half man, half bull people.
I
It
love
got,
I love in my notes I have
dumping.
listed it as a fabulous monster.
I mean,
I think I'm the only person in the world that would call it a fabulous monster.
probably.
Oh my, sorry,
Uh,
sorry, Vinny. Continue. No, you ain't. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's good. It's good. Okay.
so, the Minotaur. Everyone knows the Minotaur. Okay, it's one of the most goddamn famous Greek myths, and it has been adapted so many times. And essentially, it's between King Minos of Crete and the hero Theseus. Essentially, King Minos got a white bull from Poseidon, and he was supposed to sacrifice it in the honor of the gods. But he looked at the bull and he was like, you're so nice. I like you so much. I'm not gonna sacrifice you. Not. You stay with me. And Poseidon was like, what do you mean you're not gonna give me my stuff? Okay, your wife is gonna fall in love with that bull and she's gonna have sex with it and she's gonna have a weird half bull, half man child. And so it happens. She fell in love with the bull. She asked that Daedalus to create a type of, conundrum where she could put herself inside and have sex with the bull. Because who doesn't?
Who wouldn't want to have
She
sex
had
with a bull? You okay?
right. Who
Wait,
wouldn't want
just,
that?
just, just the gods in general. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but
She's
they
not. She's not even.
petty.
She's not
They
even.
petty as hell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no way I can deny that. Yes, they're temperamental,
Temperamental.
and
That's a
that's
nice way of
supposed
saying petty. They get to wear the crown
and
of
that,
petty. Okay.
and that's supposed to be it's one of like the fact that the Greek gods are temperamental and they're jealous and they have all of this is something different from a lot of other religious trends because this is sounding so nice in Portuguese in my head, and the words are just missing to me in English, and I'm sounding like a dumbass because I cannot structure a sentence. Okay, residue. Essentially, this is very different from other religions because while in other religions around the world, even at that time, the gods were perfect and they were above mankind. In Greece, they're a lot more human and they're a lot more connected to mankind itself. In fact, there's a lot of stories about the gods walking among humans. That's why you got
Excuse me.
Xenia in Greece, which is basically hospitality. One of
Mm.
the main rules in ancient Greece was hospitality and accepting strangers into your home because you never know when it can be a god in disguise. So the gods were very connected and very similar to humans. So we were essentially created very similar to them. So that's why they have all of these characters that you wouldn't find in, for example, Christian God or Christian saints, because the Christian God and saints, a lot of other gods are supposed to be above, men, above humans, while in Greek gods, they're a lot more closer to us. They're still gods, they're still powerful, they're still immortal. However, their own personality and who they are a lot more similar to us. And that ends up making us a lot closer to them as well. So it straightens the relationship between mankind and the gods. So, sorry, went on a tangent there. The Minotaur, yes. Um, So yeah, so she went and had hanky panky with a bull,
Hunky
and she ended
punky.
up hanky panky, and she ended up giving birth to the Minotaur.
Hmm.
Uh,
Ouch. The
minus
horn
all the
sucked.
yes. Can you imagine giving birth to a bull?
No thanks, I
Like
don't
think
want to.
at least it was only the half. Imagine if he had hoofs. Yeesh.
Can I birth them out of my
Um,
leg? Because that would be good.
and ew. I mean, it wouldn't be the first birth out of a leg.
Right.
Um, essentially Minos was shocked and he asked Daedalus, who poor dude, you know how many things Daedalus had to build? He had to build a fake cow so the other one had to sex with a bull, and now he had to build a place where the bull was supposed to be. So Daedalus constructed a labyrinth beneath his palace in Knossos to imprison the Minotaur. Now, interesting and going on, are you gonna talk about the fact that the hooves from a horse and stuff, they're like all gooey when they're born? Because that's
Gooey.
fucking
Ew, why is
disgusting.
it gooey? I hate gooey things. Mm.
Yeah, and they have hooves and they're so fucking oh god.
I don't know. Why is
Those
it good?
images traumatize me. Oh,
No,
it's like they
why
have
with the goo?
tentacles. Oh, they have tentacles. It's like they have fucking. They're not. Oh, come on. Those look like fucking tentacles. They do not look like feathers. They look like weird ass fucking tentacles. No one can tell me other. I saw the pictures and I was like, that is disgusting. I love nature, but no.
Go away.
Like nature, you scary. No. But yeah, they come with those things because it's to be a bit softer when being gift birth, and then they lose it like in a couple of days after.
Mm.
Yeah, they dry up and fall off. I saw that once on YouTube, and I was like, these are the type of informations I could have lived without, because I don't even like horses. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, he had to build the goddamn labyrinth. Now, a historical fact. Uh, while this myth is attributed to Knossos, uh, it is a myth. Okay, it's not real, and while he is attributed as being the king of Crete and having a labyrinth beneath the palace in Knossos, we do have a Knossos nowadays, and we know where Knossos is. It's Crete and all of those things. However, there is no labyrinth. Okay, don't go on the conspiracy theories that there is a lab and what's the name? It's not modern archaeology. What is it?
That's the penguin.
Mainstream archaeology does not want us to know that there is no, fuck conspiracy theories. I'm sorry. We don't have a labyrinth. We wish we had a fucking labyrinth. Okay, we wish. As a future historian, I wish we had a fucking labyrinth. It would be so fucking cool. Can you imagine how cool it would be to find a labyrinth? It would be awesome. We do not, however, have a labyrinth, though. It's not, it's a myth. But yeah, he builds the labyrinth and he's like, yeah, we're going to imprison the Minotaur here. And then for some reason, Minos turns to Athens and is like, you got to send us 7 young men and 7 young women every 7 or 9 years so we can feed them to our Minotaur. Because why not? And essentially, then Theseus, who's an Athenian hero, he volunteers in order to end the horrific tradition. When he gets there, he falls in love with Minos' daughter, Ariadne, and she gives him the thread so he can navigate the labyrinth and be able to, come back out of it. So he goes there, he goes into the maze, defeats the Minotaur, finds his way out again, and that's how the Minotaur dies. And it basically releases Athens from having to do all those sacrifices. Then the sad part is when Theseus comes back home, he did a deal with his father that he would put a certain colored flag when he was arriving. But he was so hyped of having done it, he forgot. And he had the wrong flag, and the flag that he had on was the flag that he told his dad would be if he had died. So his dad saw the flag and thought, my child has died, and he killed himself. It's sad. But hey, he killed a Minotaur, so hero. He's Theseus also ends up being a very important Athenian hero. Like he has a very importance when it comes to Athens itself. Athens considers Theseus to be the ultimate hero and the ultimate representation of what an ideal Athenian should be. You know, so it ends up having a very important position when it comes to Athenian Athens itself. My God, English, what is wrong with you? My brain is dead. After that, so we have 4. Which one do you want? Do you want Tantalus, Sisyphus, Orpheus, or Prometheus? You choose.
Pick one.
I don't know. Peeps, do you want to pick one? You got the dude. So I'm going to give you got Prometheus. You got the dude who gets his liver chopped off. You got the dude who cannot eat or drink. You got the dude pushing a rock.
Let's do Mr. Push a Rock.
Pushing a rock.
Let's do Mr. Push. Yeah, see? Let's do Mr. Push a Rock.
Let's go, Mr. Push a Rock. All right, so Sisyphus, he's known for being deceitful and because of his eternal punishment, because everyone knows that dude's gotta be, pushing a goddamn boulder up a hill for the rest of mankind.
Yes,
for the rest
that's
of eternity.
fabulous. Exactly what I want to do.
Right? And why did he do this? Because he was like, I'm so smart. I'm so amazing. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kidnap Death. Death is a deity in Greek. It's
exactly what I would do.
He goes there and he kidnaps Death and he captures him and chains him, which means no one dies. For the period that Death is chained, no one dies. You know the chaos that it is, no one dying? It's terrible. So no one dies, absolute chaos. People go rampage because they're like, I can do whatever the fuck I want because I ain't dying. And Hades is like, why is no one coming through? Why do I not have new people? What is happening? We never had this many, this clear queue in a very long while because usually got a queue. No queue.
No queue.
No queue. What the hell? I'm paying people to work and there's no one here. I'm kidding. But essentially he's like, gotta do everything myself. He went there, he freed Death, and he turns to Sisyphus and he decides to punish him. Now, most punishments in ancient Greece end up being given by Zeus. Almost all of them ended up being carried in the underworld, namely in Tartarus, so the underworld, which is also called Hades. So Hades is a god, and Hades is also a place. So usually I prefer to just say underworld, so not to confuse people. But the underworld is divided into a lot of sections. One second. One second.
Excuse me. I
Okay.
told you I was gonna
So
try. I am horrible.
so the underworld is divided into a lot of sections, uh, and one of them is Tartarus, which is basically what modern people think of hell, as in the Christian concept. Constant, punishment and all of that. That's Tartarus,
Mm-hmm.
probably without so much lava and hot. But yeah,
Without
and he's
lava
there.
and hot.
And he's there. And usually, most of the punishments are given by Zeus, and they're then enacted in the underworld with Hades' approval. However, Sisyphus is different because it was Hades who decided to punish him, and his punishment is he's condemned to roll a very heavy boulder up a steep hill, only to when before reaching the summit, it rolls back down again, and he has to keep up. And he never succeeds in getting the boulder. And he's there, you know, for all eternity. There's only one moment, and this is so interesting. My fiance keeps telling whenever we talk about this, because he's also, a nerd like me. Whenever we talk about
No.
Greek myth, uh, who would have thought?
No.
Whenever we talk about it, especially when we talk about Orpheus, which I'm gonna talk about next, um,
Oh
there's
shit!
only one moment. What?
I just dropped my book on the floor. Sorry.
Oh god. So when Orpheus went to the underworld, which I'm gonna talk about him a bit after, um, he played music for the gods, and during that moment when he's playing, his music is so beautiful that for that couple of minutes, the boulder that Sisyphus is pushing, rolling, um, it stops being heavy. And Tantalus, for example, can finally reach water and touch the water, touch the fruit. It's very, very short amount of time, but the music of Orpheus is supposed to be so beautiful. Even the torture and the suffering in Tartarus stops for a couple of seconds. So it's very beautiful. But yeah, Sisyphus is still there, still pushing that goddamn boulder. And that should teach you not to try and kidnap death. And
Yeah,
the purpose of this myth.
when I
Yeah.
was in when I was in college, when I first discovered Resident Evil, this has nothing absolutely. It's just funny, just the theme I used to do it. There was that part where you're in the police station, the second part where you push the stone to get the gem that the dude's holding in a hand. And I used to be saying pushing a rock, pushing a rock, pushing a rock. And that's probably what he's saying every day. Pushing a rock, pushing a rock, pushing a rock. Ah shit! Every day. It's gonna be poor guy. Poor guy. But I've noticed that Hades' punishments are far less worse than Zeus' punishments.
I mean, yeah, probably. At least this one wasn't having his liver eaten out,
Yes, liver. Sorry,
which we
continue.
will
I'm
also
sorry.
talk about.
I apologize.
So, since I mentioned Orpheus, we can go to him. Orpheus is a very tragic story. It's so fucking sad. It's beautiful, but sad. So prepare your tissues. Or not. I don't know. I'm not your mom.
You can smell it on your shirt if you want. We won't.
Yeah, we won't tell. You can just sniff the sleeve of your shirt. We won't tell.
You're good. Just don't blow your nose on it, because that'll suck. Alright, go continue. I'm sorry. I'm ridiculous.
So,
Okay. I'm some kind of crack
Orpheus.
today.
I mean, Orpheus was a legendary.
Don't answer
What?
that, Lexi. Don't answer it. Don't say anything. Just continue on.
Ma'am, I am behaving. I am the epitome of civilized society. I don't know.
Okay, you're okay.
Even I cannot say that with a straight face.
Nope.
So me, rude? No, never.
Nope.
Orpheus is a legendary musician and poet. He's known for being really good at music, and he had a wife. He was the son of Apollo and the Muse Calliope, which gives him amazing abilities to be able to sing and everything, and he could play the lyre. And he had a wife. Unfortunately, his wife died from a snake bite. She was bitten. and she died. And he tried, saving her, but he wasn't able. So what does he decide? He's like, I'm so good at playing. I am sure I can convince the gods of the underworld to give me my wife back. So he finds an entrance to the realm of the dead. He goes there. He actually reaches Hades and Persephone's hall. So he even charms Kerberos, which is the three-headed dog, and he charms everyone on the way with his music. And he reaches the hall, and he plays. You know, the gods are like, this case Persephone is, which is also a very interesting thing. The fact that Persephone is the goddess that gives the permission to Orpheus to play the music also shows the amount of power she had as queen of the underworld. Because usually when people think about the underworld, they think about the god Hades, and he's the all powerful. But actually, when you look at the myths and when you look at the information we have, Persephone was the one that did almost the important ruling. And one of the examples is Orpheus. Orpheus plays for Persephone. Hades is there, but Persephone is the one who's going to make, the decision. And he plays, and like I said, the suffering from people of Tartarus eases a bit during the playing, and he convinces. The gods are like, you played so beautifully. We will allow you to take your wife back to the land of the living. We will allow you. There is only one condition. You must wither out of the underworld without looking back until you reach the surface. You cannot look back. You go, and when you're outside under the sun, you can look back and your wife will be there. But you cannot look back until you're there. They go, but unfortunately, just as they are arriving to the surface, Orpheus cannot stand the constant thinking: is she behind me? Is she coming? Is she there? Because he can't, he's not able to talk to her. He has to know that she's coming after him, but he cannot look at her. He cannot hear her. He just has to trust that she's coming. And he's being plagued by the thoughts of: is she really coming? Is she here? Am I just being played by a fool? And when he's almost reaching the surface, he decides to turn around and look. And he saws her. He sees her, like she's there. Except the moment that he sees her, she's dragged back into the underworld, because that was the condition. He was not allowed to look back, and he did. So she gets dragged back into the underworld, and he loses her. And he's not allowed to go back, and he's not allowed to go and get her. It's very sad.
Very sad.
It's a tale of a loss, and and it's also interesting because it makes you reflect on how humans are so
Impatient?
tempted. Yeah, and tempted. We can fall easy to temptation if we're not aware of it, if we don't make an actual effort. Like, he fell into the temptation of looking back. All we had to do was not look back. Like, it's the pushing of the button. You have a button. Someone tells you not to push. Your only job is not push the fucking button. Everyone knows you're gonna push the button. You're just gonna. You don't know what happens, but you're gonna push the button.
We're defiant and impatient, so that just makes it all the worse.
Exactly. So essentially, it's a very lovely story, and it's so fucking sad. It's so sad. And the other two are not any better. And yes, Kerberos is translated to spotted, and it's very cute because basically Kerberos' meaning is spotted. That's the literal translation of the word. So it's like you name your dog Spot. It's cute. And yeah, we talked about Hades a bit before. If you want to watch the full podcast on YouTube, which I assume Wizzy is going to upload it, and yeah,
Oh yeah.
he's pretty chill. What?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna upload
I
it.
did not listen to it. What? Oh, you're gonna upload it? Okay.
Of course I'm
I was like, I have
upload
no
it.
fucking idea. I was like, I love you, but I have no fucking idea what you're saying. For a moment there,
I didn't upload it, of course.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to Tantalus next, so we can end on the note of the person who created mankind. So we're gonna end with Prometheus. We have two left. We have Tantalus and Prometheus. Prometheus created mankind, so he's gonna get the honor of being the last one. so we can end on a high note, especially because he gets saved in the end. So high note. Tantalus, however, does not get saved. So, Tantalus in Greek mythology, he's also another one that is suffering the eternal punishment. And a lot of people know this one too because he's basically he's in the middle of a pool of water. However, no matter how many times he gets down to touch and get the water to drink, he cannot. The water will always recede. And on top of him, he has, fruits, fruit trees and branches. But whenever he tries to reach to the fruits, the tree branches will retract and he's not able to reach them. So he's eternally damned to not be able to eat anything while constantly seeing the temptation of food on top of him and constantly being thirsty but not being able to drink any water because he cannot reach it. That's his eternal punishment. And now you're like, what the fuck did he do to deserve that? Well, besides stealing the food of the gods and serving it to mortals, which you're not supposed to do, he also murdered his own son and tried to serve him to the god to test if they were all knowing. So Tantalus, right? Tantalus thought that the gods were not all knowing. And technically, he's not wrong. The gods are not all knowing. No, at least not in the sense that Christian God is all knowing. And he decided, you know what? I'm going to murder my son and I'm going to serve human meat to the gods. And we will see if they know that it's, human meat. Ta-da, they do. Except one Demeter, this is supposed to have happened while Demeter was depressed because of Persephone not being there. So Demeter was so, thinking about her daughter and all of that, that she eats a bit of the food that Tantalus gives to the gods. She technically, if I'm not mistaken, eats a bit of what would be the shoulder. But the other gods, they see that it's, human flesh. So they essentially they get mad at Tantalus. One of them, I think it's Athena, they're able to gather the pieces and turn the kid back to life. So they give him life again with the missing shoulder, which it's replaced by, I think it's a golden shoulder that I create for him. So they're back to life and they grab Tantalus and they're like, you know what? You're a little shit. You just fed us your own child. You're gonna get punished. So they grab him and they're, throw him in Tartarus. And he needs to stand in that pool of water with delicious fruit on top of his head. And he cannot eat and he cannot drink. And the word Tantalus, his name, is what ended up in the English language, at least, turning into the word tantalizing. So it's from his name that comes the idea of tantalizing, which is exactly, an unattainable desire, something you cannot get. It reflects his eternal suffering. So yeah, these two, Tantalus and Sisyphus, are the two most known ancient Greek punishments. They're the most famous one, the boulder up a hill and the dude who cannot eat or drink. The other punishment that we all know comes from Prometheus. So Prometheus was not a mortal, contrary to some of the others. He was a titan. So he was one of the deities that predated the Olympian gods. Okay, so he's of the same generation as Cronus, Zeus' dad, like we spoke at the beginning of the podcast. He is best known for defying Zeus a lot to benefit mankind. And he's also sometimes attributed as being the creator of mankind. He supposedly created mankind out of clay. He created mankind out of clay. And he's also, I think it's clay. Let me check. I think it's clay. I have that in my own personal notes because I really like the idea of the creation of. Yeah, yeah. He created human beings. Yeah, it comes from Sappho of Lesbos, which was a poetess. She's then quoted in Roman commentary, and basically, it gets fucking even more spoken about with fucking Ovid. But yeah, essentially he crafted human beings himself. The other idea of the he also ends up being there is that uh, when Plato talks about the creation of mankind, Plato was an Athenian philosopher. Uh, they basically the gods created all human beings, including animals and everything, created everything, and then they assigned Prometheus and his brother to create all the attributes to the different animals. His brother Epimetheus decided that he would give the attributes to the animals if Prometheus would inspect them after. And Epimetheus did a terrible job. He gave everything to the animals, and humankind had nothing. So Prometheus decided to steal fire and the mechanical arts from the gods to give them to humanity. So since humanity had no fur, no claws, no sharp teeth, no horns, nothing that we could defend ourselves with, Prometheus stole the fire from the sacred hearth, which would be Estia's hearth, and the mechanical arts from Hephaestus, and gave us to humans so that we could, uh, cook and protect ourselves and advance. This angered Zeus, obviously, and he decided to punish Prometheus.
Mm.
And Prometheus was bound to a rock where an eagle would eat his liver every day, only for it to regenerate overnight, because Prometheus is a titan, so he is immortal. And the next day, the eagle would come and eat his liver again, and that happens every day, non-stop, until Hercules arrived. Well, in this case, Heracles, which is the Greek name of the hero. And Heracles come, and everybody knows the 12 works of Heracles or Hercules, and he releases Prometheus. So yeah, I thought we could end on a good note because Prometheus, kind of created mankind, or at least helped create mankind, and he gave us fire, and he was one of the closest allies to mankind. So I thought that was a good note to end. And I behaved well because I kept everything under 1 hour and 30. So you're welcome. I was able not to ramble too much.
Everybody in chat, please give a nice warm applause to Professor Lexi Liu for her not so ranting but very enlightening and educational information on the Greek mythology.
Especially if anyone is still awake and hasn't fallen asleep.
No, it's very awesome. I can listen to you talk all day, dude. It's ridiculous. So it's fun. But yeah, it was a big woo. Exactly, Vinny. Big woo. See, these people are here for it. They love listening to you talk. See, I was always afraid to do this podcast because I didn't think people would think that history is all that intriguing. But we took the weird side of history because you can have any type of weird ass movie in the world, but history is 1,000 times weirder. I'm telling you. Yes.
History is amazing. I know I'm biased because I want to be an historian and I'm studying to be an historian, but history is amazing. It's amazing. Like you can learn so much from history. And if people actually learn more about history, a lot of the mistakes that mankind still makes nowadays would be avoided because we would have learned from our ancestors and their own mistakes. But no, mankind, there's a quote. I don't know who the quote is from, so I cannot tell you who it's from, but there's a quote that says that mankind is destined to keep repeating its previous errors, and an historian is the person who has to know that and live with the knowledge that mankind will always keep repeating the errors. So like an historian knows the errors of a mankind. There's nothing we can do to avoid mankind from doing them again, and that's why kind of a burden because you see things happening. You know when you're looking at like a kid playing and you're like, you're gonna hurt yourself, and then the kid just slams his head against something, and you're like, I told you so. It's exactly that, except the kid's mankind, and the parent is a really angry historian who's like, fucking hell, I've been telling you all about it.
No, thank you, Ashley, for being here. I'm so excited that you could come and join us since it was your hard work that made our beautiful icons for the overlay. We appreciate you so much and your beautiful talent. Like I said, if you need emotes, animated or static, please go and visit Ashley Chilichai Studio. She is the most amazing artist, and she's talented, she's fast, and her prices are amazing. Please go and do the thing. But anyway, there is our podcast list of the upcoming episodes for History is Weird. We have new things coming. October's will be Plague Doctors, one of my favorite things to investigate. I have lots of notes, and it's going to be oopy and spoopy. Then we have the Grim Fairy Tales, which is also not so fairy tale if you actually read into the history. Weird medical treatments, which is absolutely hilarious. And then season 2, if we survive that long, we're gonna do medieval torture devices because there's some really crazy shit out there that people use to torture people with. And weird superstitions.
I'm gonna try and find my high school paper on the Inquisition. I did one.
Oh yeah, the Inquisition. They did some terrible shit. Terrible shit, you know.
I did a whole paper on it when I was in high school, and half my presentation was, and this is how they would torture people. And each one was gruesome than the last. And my teacher was like, "I know you're passionate about this, but god damn." In the end, I remember he told the class, he was like, "Anyone have a more upbeat so we can, gather ourselves up from this very depressing presentation," because it was so fucking nasty. So,
yeah, we'll have... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
If you guys are liking this, we will do more episodes, but we've only have these couple episodes to see how you like it. We're just working out the kinks to see how we're gonna do the thing. It was very, very Lexi heavy because I don't know that much about Greek mythology, so I gave her the floor to shine like a star because that's the kind of person I am. She's not my guest, she's my co-host, so she's allowed to take over from time to time when I just want to sit here and listen and go, knowledge seep into my ear. It's not gonna stick, but we can have it seep into my ear anyway. But that's our first podcast for today, guys. What did you think? Tell me what you thought. We want to know your thoughts so we can improve on the layout and curriculum. Curriculum, is that the right word? I don't even know.
From the outside.
Something like that. Also,
Melly, thank you for gifting us up to mom.
Yay! Hype.
Don't
Also,
worry.
if you want to talk about history or stuff like that, you can always join the Discord and, just pick a channel. I don't know.
Yeah, our Discord has an old ass shit forum, so you can talk about absolutely old things. We had like old typewriters. We had what buildings looked like in like 1816. All kinds of histories. Oh, we're calling that weird in our Discord. So if you want to join my Discord,
Yeah, we got a lot of things, so feel free to join us.
Anyway, so that was our podcast for today. I'm surprised we didn't go over, but Lexi, Luke, you did very well. I'm very proud.
I made an actual effort. I was like, I cannot deviate. I cannot, because if you allow me to deviate, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Like every time I'm explaining something, I will go on a tangent explaining the something of that something. It's. I literally, so that the people who are listening can know, I made a Word document. And I legit went. I was telling Lizzie this before we started. Like, I knew all the myths.
Oh, Zembo.
But I went.
Love you, bud. I'm sorry. It was just a short podcast. It's okay. I'm going to, after this, I'm going to edit it and throw it up on YouTube. You guys know I have a YouTube channel that I put all of my podcasts on. Everything is there, even when I super sucked and didn't know how to do anything. It's all on there, and this will end up on there too. So don't worry about it if you miss it. You love Greek see? Everybody likes Greek mythology, I'm telling you. So our next episode will be on October 28th. That's like just spooky weekend, and we're talking about plague doctors, the curious and very creepy historical thing. It's madness. It's pure madness. I've been reading up on it, going, oh my god, it's so scary. It's great.
I'm gonna have to read on it because I don't know much about it.
It just make sure you get the right sources because everybody's giving you different. It's kind of like Greek mythology. You try to look it up, and everybody's got a different point of view. It's the same thing. Same thing.
Ma'am.
So, yes. Oh, hey, Mikado, everybody's coming in. Hey, Mikado, how are you? Pagan mythology. I don't think we have done pagan, but hey, maybe we should do that for an episode. If you guys want to keep doing this, only if you guys want us to keep doing this, because we have a bunch of topics that we want to try, so we can add that to the roster.
Lizzie.
What?
Technically, Greek mythology is pagan mythology because pagan, at least in the modern. Oh God, you're gonna make me go on a tangent.
No tangents. No tangents. We can't tangent.
It's quick.
Okay,
pagan,
quick
in
tangent.
this case, quick tangent. Pagan, and I say this as a pagan essentially is every type of religious belief typically associated to Europe pre the Christian era.
Mm.
So Greek, Roman, Celtics, Vikings, all of that. Some people will also add Egypt, Sumerian, and all of the Fertile Crescent over to the mix. Some people will even go as far as that and include every polytheist religion into paganism. Now you have paganism and neo-paganism. Well, technically, we can say you have paleo-paganism, which is paganism that actually happened in historical context, and then you have neo-paganism, which is the neo-pagan religious movements, which came up in the second half of the 20th century, especially with the, starting of modern witchcraft and Wicca in mid 1950s. Please, if you ever make a podcast about modern neo-pagan religions, I can talk for like 5 hours on it. And I totally should go into
religion is a
contemporary
very
history.
touchy subject, but there are different types of mythology.
In fact, we did a whole episode on witchcraft and paganism.
We did. It was an excellent
YouTube.
episode. It just you got some people who are severely radical about their religion and stuff like that. I mean, they can't have a normal conversation. They immediately hate you if you're different from them. So you have to be very careful with that. Politics and other things like that you can't actually touch on because people will get fanatical at you. So I try to get away from that kind of subject.
Yeah, but like I was saying, but this all came from the idea of pagan mythology. Technically, we're already talking about pagan mythology because Greek is considered pagan.
Mm.
So you already talked about it.
Okay.
More, we would probably talk about Celtics, Vikings, Egyptian, Romans. Please don't make me talk about Romans. Also, don't make me talk about Celtics or Vikings.
Lexi.
I mean, we can, but
breathe.
they're so hard because there's almost no, like, I'm a very spoiled brat. I'm a spoiled brat because I'm an Hellenic polytheist, so I have everything at the tip of my fingers with all mythology, and then Celtics and Celtic mythology and Viking Norse mythology, and they're not as easy because there's so little sources.
So
and
I was thinking, Lexi, maybe we should make the podcast later for our EU folks. Is that too late for you? Like, because I know it's really late for you. Well, not really late, but
the sun's still out. It's not even 7 p.m. yet.
Okay, I don't know what time you go to bed. I gotta sneeze. Hang on.
Ma'am, I go to bed.
Nope, it ran away.
Ma'am, we start our in my time zone. We started at 5 p.m. I go to bed at midnight.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Time zones fucked me up. All right, so if you guys want, we can maybe make it like 1:30. 1:30. Would that be easier for more people to get in here? Because I like to stream early. I'm sorry, because I lose my energy about 2:00 in the afternoon. I lose all of my pep, and then I just start going shutting down because my caffeine wears off. So,
what time did we stream with Jen? What time was it in your time zone?
What time did we 2:00?
I don't know. It was 7 p.m. here, so
yeah, it was like 2:00. Maybe we'll change the time and make it a little bit later. We'll talk about it. Anyway, our next podcast will be Plague Doctors. That's going to be on 28th. Yeah, it'll be 2:00. Yeah. And tomorrow we're playing GTFO.
We could do 1.
1:00?
Yeah, that's 6 p.m. to me. That seems fine.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 p.m. is also good, but I'm like 2 probably a bit too late for you, so I would say 1. That's
okay.
Nice.
Yeah, we can change it so that the EU folk can sneak in there. But anyway, Lexi, you can hop off if you want. I'm just going to babble about what's coming next on the channel.
Okay.
Okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for being here. See you next time.
Okay,
what?
I'm going to stay here so we can talk after. I'll stay here. I'll be quiet.
Okay. All right. Well, we're in next to the channel. Like I said, there's going to be a podcast mid-April. Oh, my God. Mid-October. It's going to be Resident Evil fan theories with the great Lawsy. And then we have the podcast, The History is Weird with Plague Doctors at the end. See what happens? I talk and then words just do not come out right. But October is filled with all kinds of good stuff, and the calendar is posted, so go and check that out. So, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient. I hope your brain is now pulsating with knowledge, and you can go out there and flex your Greek facts at the world because you know shit, and you can do the thing. Anyway, so let's see if we can find somebody to raid. Who's doing the stuff and the things today? This music is getting on my nerves. Shut up. All right. So we have a lot of people streaming right now. I don't know if we should. Is it rude to invade somebody's Dungeon and Dragons game? Because Vic is streaming her Dungeons and Dragons game. I guess not, since she's streaming it. We could go over there so you guys can go and listen to that. Or would you like to go visit Ray? He's playing Elden Ring. It's his 750 follower, but he just made almost 800 today. So if you want to go see him, he's playing Elden Ring. Crowd control, which is amazing. So let's go raid him because he is doing a stuff and a thing. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I know podcasts are not everybody's thing, but they are interesting depending on the topic, and I appreciate that. Excuse me, Twitch. Thank you. We're gonna go over there. We're gonna harass him, and tomorrow we're playing GTFO. We're gonna find some more bulk, do some rundowns, try not to kill Hackett. It should be a good time. And then Wednesday we're gonna be doing some more Ada. Well, we're gonna do it Wong, not right. So I will see you guys then. Take care of yourselves. I love you very much. Bye bye.
Oh, my sweet BBGs, welcome in. Lexi, good to